Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks for joining us here at Totally Booked Readers. My name is Alyssa.
I'm Kiara.
And I'm Hope. We're three best friends with a passion for reading who enjoy getting together to talk about all kinds of books.
We're just here for the vibes, the good, the bad, and the spicy.
Stick around for the rest of this episode to join us for our drunk synopsis of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros.
Before we start, I just want to give a major spoiler warning for both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. At this point, we have read up to Iron Flame, and when we mix our excitement for books with drinks, we cannot be held responsible for the spoilers we sling around. That is your final warning.
And so we know that this is not an original idea and that many other book podcasts have done this. And there's an entire show called Drunk History that we're kind of taking inspiration from. This is our version of a drunk book synopsis.
And we just thought it would be a jolly good time, and we hope that you all think so as well.
So, ladies, I know I brought with me some sweet blackberry wine, and I was sipping on mine a little slower than y'all, so I've also taken a shot of tequila to catch up. What are y'all sipping on?
Well, over here, I am drinking a dry red wine. It's my go-to, my wine of choice. And, you know, me and Alyssa did have a fun time while we were eating dinner, just preparing. And so we're excited to synopsisize Fourth Wing.
I am drinking a sparkling wine as well. It's a wine night.
It's a wine night, a gal's wine night. And we're glad to give you an inside look into what that looks like when we're book obsessed.
All right. So this episode is basically going to be just us summarizing Fourth Wing and going through Fourth Wing.
Yeah, it's been out long enough. Everyone and their mother has read Fourth Wing, and if you haven't, this is your sign to go read it.
You should.
Before you come back and listen to this podcast. Like we said,
You already got one spoiler.
Major spoilers. So
go read it
spoiler.
first.
Spoiler warning. There you go.
Exactly.
Go read it first. Then come back and listen to us yap about it. So, beginning. First off, we start off with the iconic: a dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without their dragon is dead. Welcome to Fourth Wing.
And we definitely find that out.
Yep, and everyone needs to know that going in. It's like the biggest part.
Yeah. So basically, we start out. Our main character's name is Violet, and she wants to be a scribe. Has trained and prepared her whole life to be a scribe.
She loves books. She loves writing. She loves writing. She's a nerd, and we resonate with that significantly. We too are nerds.
Most of us readers can probably relate to Violet.
Exactly. We see ourselves in her in some ways, especially at the beginning here.
But Mommy Dearest makes her go to the Writer's Quadrant instead.
And we don't know why. I mean, weird. Suspicious.
I don't know why. Does she want her dead? We think her mom hates her. Anyway, and then Violet talks to her sister Mira, who's her older sister, who's also pissed off at Mommy Dearest.
And is pretty badass. And she's been through this before.
Yeah, she is a writer. So she's all like, Violet will never make it. Which, you know, is kind of insulting.
Yeah, love the faith for the little sister.
Literally no faith in her. But anyway. So then Mira makes her leave all her shit, including this book that Violet's really sad about.
She's like, girl, you're Fables. Like 5'2". You can't hold all this.
Yeah, she's like, you're gonna fall, bitch. You gotta leave it.
She's looking out for her.
So she leaves it. The book of Fables her dad gave her. Her dad's dead. They have an older brother named
Rip.
They have an older brother named Brennan, also dead.
Just the gals left, honestly.
Yeah, the three.
Yeah. Matriarchy. Anyway, and so also the Fables, it's about wyverns and venom, which aren't real. So don't worry
about that.
They're just fables.
Don't worry
and there's
not real.
one thing that Mira says above all important things to keep in mind, and that is to stay away from Xaden Ryerson.
Yes.
Because let me tell you, he is sure to kill her on sight.
Why?
We don't know why.
We're gonna find out.
We know why, but we don't know why when we're reading
Violet
it.
doesn't know. Well, she
Okay.
kind of does.
Well, she knows about, because basically 6 years ago,
Well, let me tell you something.
there was a rebellion. The main guy who did the rebellion's name was Finn Ryerson, and he had a son named Xaden Ryerson. Finn Ryerson, dead.
How many death count is that already? 3?
3.
Count, guys. 3.
And so he thinks that, oh, and her mom is like kind of the one who killed him. So Mira's thinking, logically, if you go and find him, he will kill you for revenge. On our mother.
Yep.
So stay away from him. And to protect her from him, Mira gives her armor made of her dragon Tiny's scales. So it's pretty badass.
A fashion statement.
She's protected.
Mm-hmm.
No other writer has armor like this, I will say. So she's special already before she even becomes a writer. I mean, she's going into it armed to the teeth.
Right. Also, a very important thing about Violet, she's got a chronic illness, and she like breaks her bones and her joints pop out of place really easily, and she just gets injured really easy. So nobody has a lot of faith that she's gonna make it out of the Writer's Quadrant.
Yeah.
So Mira says her goodbyes.
Honestly,
Violet-
thinking that she's gonna die. Not just
Yeah.
goodbye, we're not gonna see you for a year because you're going into the quadrant, but like, bye.
Bye, little sis. You're about to be added to the
Goodbye.
death toll in our family, essentially.
Yeah. So then Violet starts. She has a very iconic line. She says, "I'm not going to die today." She starts that all the way in chapter 1.
Love.
I believe her.
Yeah.
Repeated.
she's
Only in
safe.
chapter 1.
She is the main character. I think she's safe. Anyway.
Where did we go,
Fingers
Alyssa?
crossed.
So then we're standing in line waiting to cross the parapet, which is like this long balance beam across to the college.
And honestly, can I say something?
Yeah.
Why doesn't it seem that scary?
It seems
when
like
you're
nothing
reading
at this
it?
point. I mean, once you've read the second book, crossing the parapet's nothing.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. I'm like, what is it, like a foot wide?
Yeah,
Was
I
it
think it's like
18
18 inches. More than a
even
foot.
more than that. It's like, I guess wind, you can take that into account, but
Yeah,
And
it's like
slippery.
storming.
Yeah, it's
oh
storming.
yeah, on her
But
But
day.
it only
is.
storms when Violet's going across, I swear.
Which, by the way, her mom controls the weather.
So,
like bitch move, you know?
Why did it only storm
Who knows?
when she was crossing?
So anyway, we're going up the stairs, and we run into 2 friends. Their name is Rhiannon and Dylan. So we meet them, we say hello, we learn a little bit about them. We know that Dylan is set to be married, he's engaged, and he just needs to make it through the Writer's Quadrant to get married. So we say hi to Rhiannon and Dylan, and then we say goodbye to Dylan promptly.
Within 30
'cause he falls.
seconds.
So Dylan, dead.
Death count 4.
Or
That shocked me to my core. I really thought he was going to be like somebody we got to know.
yeah, really set the mood. And then
I'm wondering if you can just like act this part out with me, maybe.
okay, I'm ready. Who are
Okay.
you, Violet or
I'll be
Xaden?
Violet.
Okay.
Go,
okay.
go, go.
All right. So we make it up to the top of the parapet, and we're about to cross. And at the top is, of course, the most beautiful man that Violet's ever seen in her life. You'll never guess who it is.
Xaden Ryerson. Yeah, that's right.
Ryerson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one man she was supposed to stay away from. She was born not 5 minutes ago to stay away from this man.
And he said,
"You're Violet Sorrengal. Your mother captured my father and oversaw his execution."
"Your father killed my older brother. Seems like we're even."
Hardly. Hardly.
Make note
What
of
it
that, team.
What does that
Move
mean,
on.
Xaden?
Chapter 2.
hardly alluding to? How can you hardly?
kill someone.
Anyway,
Seems like you kill someone.
chapter 2, Violet crosses the parapet. Shocker, I know. She makes it.
We have a book, people.
Good to know. And then we discover this man named Jack Barlow.
Our arch nemesis.
Jack fucking Barlow.
Who is the douchiest of the douches. And has psychopathic tendencies.
Doesn't he throw somebody off of the parapet?
Yeah, he throws someone off the parapet to cross.
Mind your business.
To get closer to Violet. But she might be tiny, but she is mighty. And when she crosses the parapet, she threatens to cut off his balls. Like the woman she is. And so he's like, I'm going to keep my eye on you, and I'm going to kill you. And she's like, sure. No balls. No balls.
I'd like to see you cry.
I was really hoping she would. Just to, again, set the mood. Set the tone.
I'm going to say, but that don't make a book. We need a nemesis.
We forgot to mention that she meets Rhiannon, and they exchange boots to make it across the parapet. So Rhiannon's wearing boots that like aren't good for the parapet, and Violet's wearing like good boots, and so Violet trades her one boot, so they each have one good boot. And so they both make it across, and now they're besties because Violet essentially saved her life with the boot.
I'd give y'all one of my boots.
Aww.
So sweet.
That's so wholesome.
I would like to think that I would, but I've never been in that situation, so I can't say for sure. But then we meet Dane, who Mira told Violet to go find, because Dane is Violet's childhood best friend, and he went into the quadrant last year, so he's a second year. And so she goes and meets Dane. And what did y'all first think of Dane?
Well, if anyone listened to our first episode where you got to know a little bit about us, you know that for me, I am not a childhood friends to lovers fan. So Dane, he rubbed me the wrong way at first. I was expecting the worst. I think a lot of these romantasy books have kind of led me astray to not believe anyone. And so I think that that's where I came from. And it probably wasn't the best way to go and meet Dane, but that's the way I went in meeting Dane. I was like, I don't trust this man. I mean, he is a man after all. Sorry, men, if you're listening to this, but it's
a
true.
Married woman.
That's enough out of you. What about for you, Hope?
I agree with you. I'm not the biggest fan of childhood friends to lovers. And he just seemed whiny. I don't know. He seemed too overly. I know Alyssa hates my opinion on Dane.
I don't understand how you didn't feel the same way.
I never liked him. Every time his name came across, even from like when we first met him, how he brought her up to her room to help her wrap her knee or whatever, like,
you were annoyed by that?
I was. I don't know why.
I think it's because we've been trained to like just be so wary of these people.
Well, call me gullible, because I was smitten.
Okay, so you're just mad that you didn't guess it.
I thought he was cute, and I thought it was so sweet that he helped her wrap her knee, and that he took her into his squad right away, and was just like, because the Writer's Quadrant is all about strength and everything, and he was immediately like, it's fine, I know you're not the strongest, but I want you in my group, so I keep an eye on you.
Wholesome, you're right, but it's just you read it before anyone really knew. Like Alyssa read it right off the bat, like when it first came out, or pretty soon after, where you didn't know a lot, whereas me and Hope went into it within the past like 2 months, where it's been out for 2 years. We know that the main love interest is Xaden, so we did go in with a little bit of that skewed mindset, so please keep that in mind. So Alyssa went in so wholesome, just wanting the best for Violet, loving a friend, and that's what we can take away from this.
But he also didn't want her in his squad.
He didn't want her.
He just wanted her close so he could send her away.
That's not true. We'll get into that later.
Hey,
listen, I knew Xaden was going to be the main love interest. I'm just saying, I was like, oh, he's cute. Dane's cute. Like, I wasn't like, yeah, he should end up with Violet. But I wasn't like, I didn't think we were going where we were going. That's for
And
sure.
we'll get into that. Moving
We'll
on.
get into that later. So anyway, Dane pulls her into the squad. And oh, yeah, I liked Violet right off the bat because of how kind of flirty she was with Dane. Like she was it just showed her personality really well. Like she was just like Dane was like, "Oh my gosh, like it's been so long. I can't believe you." And then she made like a joke about him and he was like, "Oh, I'm glad you haven't lost like the sharpness of your tongue or whatever." And she was like, "Oh, I can do quite a few things with my tongue. You'd be impressed." Okay, queen. Anyway, so then we have our squad, and Xaden all of a sudden is whispering in the ear of the other wing leaders. He's like, and then they're like, Atos, your squad's moving to 4th wing, flame section, 2nd squad. So now Xaden is the wing leader of the squad. We all know what that means.
Atos is Dane, by the way.
Yeah, Dane Atos. And so we all know what that means. Xaden's gonna kill her.
Yeah, he's getting her close to him so he can murder her.
Yeah, he just made it easier for himself. Anyway, so now we have our 2nd squad, flame section, 4th wing.
But according to Codex, you can't murder somebody in the same squad, right?
Okay. Does Xaden seem like the rule following type of guy? I don't think so. Anyway, and then Imogen, we have Quinn, we have Sawyer, we have Riddick, Liam, Rhiannon, Violet, Trina, Areli, Tenon, Garrick, which Garrick is the section leader, I believe. So there goes Xaden, wing leader, Garrick, section leader, Bodhi, squad leader.
Cool.
I think.
And then they're all buds. I mean, Bodhi's related to Xaden.
We don't know that yet, but we do know that they're all marked ones.
Okay.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, by the way.
Children.
You should know this.
The children of the people, the leaders of the rebellion, all got like relics from dragons that mark them as the children of the traitors. So when we say marked ones, that's who we're referring to. Xaden and his posse. Okay. Then we get like an introduction to the dragons. They all come in and they crash into the wall.
To scare
They flaunt.
They strut.
To scare the crap out of all these poor young people who just crossed the parapet and are already scared for their lives.
They show it all off.
And it works because some of them run, and guess what happens to them? Dead.
They're not strong enough.
They're not strong enough. If they're gonna run, they can't be a rider.
Mm-mm.
And I can't even tell you how many of them got incinerated, so I don't know what our death count is.
Probably, let's make a guesstimate. Probably like
dead.
10.
10? You think that many?
10 died. Or no, 10 total deaths, so 6 died. Yeah, I feel like that's normal.
Oh, so you're saying our death toll is up to 10?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I'm good.
Death toll, 10, officially.
10. Okay. Speaking of, chapter 4, we get our first death roll.
Just in time.
That's where they read off the name of the people who died the day before. So we find out a little bit more.
Kind of like the Hunger Games when they have like
with the cannon.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what I pictured too, but It's like coming from a human.
But like nobody's allowed to cry. Like it's just like they say the name and you just have to move on.
It's not that you're not allowed to cry. It's just if you do, you show weakness to the rest of them.
If you cry, you're a bitch. Don't
Oh
cry.
gosh, did we see anyone cry?
Yes.
Who?
Oh,
it was probably early
Iron
on.
Flame.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it might be an Iron Flame.
You don't even remember that because who would remember a bitch that cries at death roll?
Okay,
not me.
I feel like a lot of the flyers in Iron Flame do.
And you know who we meet pretty soon after?
Who?
Sawyer.
Ooh. Sawyer and Riddick.
Yeah, but let me tell you about Sawyer first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So he's a repeat first year. You know, that means that he's already been through like the parapet, the things that you lead up to threshing, which we'll go into that a little bit more. We're not going to explain it now, but essentially he didn't get picked or didn't like match with a dragon. And so he had to finish all of first year dragonless, and then he came back and he has to repeat the whole first year. So love Sawyer.
He's a good ally to have because he knows what's coming.
Yeah, he can help you, get you prepared. And then
He
Riddick,
knows the ins and outs.
And Riddick, he's our
comedic relief.
yes.
Yeah.
He's a good time. And then oh yeah, Zayden, he's a little sassy at the beginning.
As
I
he
kind of
should
like
be.
it. He's saucy. He's sassy. He sees you know, because Dane and Violet are pretty close because their parents are both in leadership. So they've moved around a lot to different outposts because their parents are both in leadership. And everyone knows this, and so they kind of like are sticking together, right? And they're chatting in the hallway, and Zayden's all like, I already knew your parents were tight, but do you two have to be so fucking obvious? He just calls them out like that. Sassy. Sassafras. And then I thought it was interesting. At the top of chapter 5, we already go ahead and get an excerpt from Lilith Sorrengail, her journal, or a letter that she was writing.
And that's Violet's mom.
Violet's mom, saying that no child should watch their parent put to death, which I thought was interesting because she quite literally
Did just that to someone else's
made children watch
child.
as she put their parents to death.
Yep.
All of the Mark twins.
All of them. And then also kind of happens in Irish Flame, but anyway. Then we have our first battle brief, which is where they sit down and they tell you everything that's going on at the front lines. I say everything loosely.
Do they tell you everything?
And we'll come back to that.
They tell you things that are going on in the first line, and so that it kind of prepares you to think like you're in battle, like
so you can
in
give
planning.
helpful advice or helpful thoughts so that we can
Yes.
best prepare to fight the enemies.
And the enemies are Griffins and Pormule, which is the country next to the Navarre, which is where they are. And we learn, you know, that there's been some Griffin attacks and that they've kind of been at cities where the altitudes are pretty high, where Griffins can't really fly at those kind of altitudes.
Yeah.
They used to, like, they stay pretty low.
They're not usually hanging out around those grounds.
Yeah, because it's hard for them to control their magic and their breathing and everything. So she just finds it kind of odd that the attacks that they're mentioning are at high altitudes.
Yeah, because Violet's sharp.
She's a sharp girl. She was trained to be a scribe.
She's got the mind of a scribe.
Yep. And we meet Imogen. We get to meet her more intimately. She spars with Violet and
She's
beats her
scary.
ass. She beats her
I would say
ass.
I'd be intimidated.
When we
I would be
first met
intimidated
her,
too.
I was definitely intimidated.
For sure.
Yeah. So she's a marked one, hates Violet because she's a child of one of the rebellion leaders. So, and also to let you know, all of the children of the leaders, the marked ones, are forced to go into the Riders Quadrant when they come of age, because of the deal that was made.
Yep. And, you know, that's where the most deaths occur. So it's kind of like a punishment in some ways. See who makes it out.
But it's also like if they make it through, they're also one of the strongest citizens of Navarre because they have a dragon and they fight for Navarre. So in some ways it's a punishment, and in other ways it's also an honor and a reward.
Yeah, so they have to earn it back. They have to put their all into it, and that's how they know that they're ready to fight for Navarre.
I feel like the leadership that tasked this on them, though, did not think much of them and thought that they were going to die. They wanted it to be a death sentence.
I think that that's a good point to make, Hope. Thank you.
Yes, I also.
They didn't want them to rise in the ranks or survive.
So Violet gets her ass beat. Dane carries her off to Nolan, who is the mender who's been mending Violet the whole time she's been at Basgiath. And Dane tries to convince Violet to just run away to the scribe quadrant instead and save herself because she's chronically ill and easily breakable.
And keep this in mind because he's persistent.
He is.
Persistent is a word.
He's worried about his friend. And I don't blame him one bit.
I mean, okay.
So then she finds out that Mira has provided her with one book, which is the journal of Brennan, their dead brother,
called the Book of Brennan.
That he made it through the Riders Quadrant. So, Brennan died in the rebellion. Did I already say that?
I think so, but that was 6 years ago. And so, when he was going through the Riders Quadrant for his first year, he was also journaling his experience, but he was writing to his younger sister, Mira. So
who
that
he knew would eventually go to the Riders
she had
Quadrant as well.
intentions to go to the Riders Quadrant. So he was wanting to prepare her for this. Mira giving this to Violet, it was really helpful. I'm sure she used it to the best of her abilities, and she wanted to make sure that Violet had a leg up of sorts as well.
And one of those biggest legs ups that the Book of Brennan gave Violet is that it mentions in the notebook that leadership keeps a list of who the challenges will be for the next week.
Who the pairs in those challenges will be.
Yes. So if Violet can find that list and know who she's challenging, she can try and figure out how to beat them ahead of time. So Violet is out.
She's exploring.
Collecting some flowers. You'll find out why. And all of a sudden, she comes across a secret meeting with Xaden and his posse. Dun, dun, dun.
Of other marked ones. It was a full group of cadets who are marked ones, which we learned earlier that gatherings of more than 3 of the marked ones were against the Riders Codex. So when Violet sees a group of them, obviously more than 3, she gets a little wary of their intentions, of what's going on.
Instantly alert because she's sharp. Yet again, I must point that out.
Yep. So she shimmies up a tree and listens.
The visual of that. Violet shimmying up a tree. 5'2".
You would, yeah.
Shimmying.
It'd be weird for a tall person to shimmy.
Weird for anyone to shimmy, but continue.
No. Shimmying was made for short people.
Shimmying up is concerning.
She'll shimmy down. Anyway.
And guess who catches her in the act?
Not in the act. The meeting conjoins.
Sorry. No, but so she's finished shimmying. She's stagnant.
Sure.
And he catches her. Who? Xaden.
She thought she got away with it. She was so quiet. Nobody said a thing. She was coming down out of the tree.
She was home free.
She was home free.
And there was probably some threats. I don't have the exact quotes written down, but there were some threats.
What? No, Xaden finds her, and he's all like, "What's up, girl?"
No, Melissa.
Sorry.
This is not factual information. This is paraphrased.
No, he's much cooler than that. He's all like, "What are you doing out here?" And she's like, "I don't know. Not having a meeting, that's for sure."
Definitely not eavesdropping. I don't know what you think.
And he's like, "Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to kill you." And she's like, No. I won't tell anyone." And he's like,
We'll see.
I
You
believe
better
you.
not.
I'll let you go. Just this once." And then he's like, "You better get out of here before your wing leader catches you out after curfew." And she's like, "Oh, Xaden, you are my wing leader."
Oh, dear.
And then he bends her over. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me move on about our lives.
We're not to that point yet.
And we get back to college, because that's why we're here. And we're in a class where we're learning about the different types of dragons. We learn that there's 6 major types of dragons. We have our red, blue, brown, orange, green, and black. Yeah, that was a lot, guys. Red, blue, brown, orange, green, and black. But this year is different, because guess what? Only 100 dragons agreed to bond for the year.
100?
I think it was something Thought it was like an odd number. Just like
Oh,
a
it
round
was.
number.
It was because it changed later on.
Was it like 110
101?
or something?
No, it goes to 101, doesn't
Oh.
it?
Wow.
101 dragons, and the number dwindles every year.
No, it's 100. 100 agreed to bond for
Okay.
the year.
Okay.
Only 100, and it's getting less and less every year.
For sure.
And then he goes in to say, there's this rare blue dagger-tailed dragon, and it's Sigale. And who is Sigale, you ask?
Who?
Who is she?
She is Xaden's dragon.
Of course.
Rare blue dagger tail.
Strong. And there's only 2 black dragons in existence. One of them belongs to General Melgren,
The leader of all of Navarre's armies.
And that's
Yeah.
is it Coda? Is that how we
His
say it?
name's
Sorry,
Coda.
guys.
And then there's this other black Morningstar tail dragon that you can just forget about because he doesn't want
to bond with anyone.
Nobody's seen him
he
in
had a
over 5
tragic
years.
death of his rider. He is not in the cards.
Yeah, he bonds really strongly with his riders. And 6 years ago, when there was a rebellion, his rider, Naolin, died because he burned himself out because he was a siphon and he was trying to save someone, Brennan.
Violet's brother.
And he burned himself out and died. And so since then, Taryn was like, I'm not bonding with anybody else.
This unnamed black Morningstar tail.
Oh. You can forget about him. Yeah, you can forget about him. Anyway. Also, Violet, she's smart. So she's defeating her opponents at these challenges by poisoning them beforehand. So they're getting sick and they're losing the challenges because they're like dizzy or like passing out and stuff.
Because
But
she's sharp.
But how does she know? Was she able to find the list?
Yes, she found the list in somebody's office. Professor Imitario, probably, because that's the guy that does the challenges.
The Book of Brennan is proven to be useful so far.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's so just hinted at. She's never like, guys, I found the list and I know what to do now. It's just we just start seeing her win. All 5'2" of her, who's never trained before.
Yeah, and she's killing it.
She is.
She's going through them. But then one day, she gets her timing off, and she poisons someone a little too early, so they don't even make it to the mat. And so she's like, "Oh well, happens.
One by default.
Next week,
Yeah.
And then Xaden's all like, "I'll challenge you. I'll take you to your back on this mat." And then Dane's all like, "No, that's not allowed. That's crazy." Because, they think that he's still trying to kill her.
And he's the wing leader and she's a first year.
Yeah, it's a little unfair.
I mean,
unmatched.
everyone has to learn eventually.
But anyway, and then, Xaden says my favorite line out of the whole book.
Tell it to us.
He says, "Going for blood today, are we, Violence?" Yow.
Violence.
Consider my panties melted.
Oh my god.
But look at this. Xaden's sharp too. He knows what's been going down behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Knows that Violet's a little more sharp than he might have given her credit for, and that she's poisoning her opponents, or she has been for at least the last couple challenges.
She's been doing it for a while, and nobody's pieced it together. He's the first one to kind of call her on it.
And he's going back and forth with her. He's bantering. They're fighting.
There's banter. Heavy banter. And, he calls her out on it. He's like, yeah, well, you're not going to exactly have time to ask a griffin for some tea before you fight them. So what are you going to do on the front lines? And so he shows her a few moves, He's like, well, if you stab here, that will puncture their who's it, what's it?
Yep.
And then they're dead.
Yeah.
So
that doesn't seem to me like he's necessarily trying to kill her.
Yeah.
But what are we left to believe? That maybe he's playing the long game. We don't know.
Yeah. So Violet's a little confused. And Dane again is like, girl, You gotta get out of here. You gotta go to the scribe quadrant. You're dead meat.
Because this guy is persistent
You're dead
in
meat.
his non-faith in Violet.
I mean, she got across the parapet.
That's what I'm
She
saying.
has been surviving
I
on
would
the mats.
Honestly, I want to see a prequel to see how Dane made it through his first year.
I know, me too.
Because I bet it wasn't all like sunshines and rainbows.
Well, I would just like to say that by this point in the book, I was getting annoyed by him. And I was like, bro, she's doing it. Let her do it. Let her do it. Anyway, then we get to the gauntlet, which Kiara and Hope have both said that they imagine.
It's very American Ninja Warrior, if you've ever seen that TV show.
Yeah.
That is what I envisioned when reading
And we
this.
both envisioned that separately without communicating with each other, and then shared that at a later date. And we just had a good chuckle because we both envisioned that. And I did envision it like up against the side of like a mountain, if that helps.
Definitely.
But yeah, definitely a deadlier version.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I picture like, you know, those baby toys that have like, you know, things that you like move across
Yeah.
and then like spin.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly those.
Exactly. I pictured it like that.
Yeah, but people die. So
But Arelli, their squad mate, dead.
11 people dead.
I'm sure it's more than that. I'm sure we missed a few in the past couple
For
chapters.
sure. But on our recap, on our drunk synopsis, 11.
11. So Violet, she runs into Xaden, you know, outside after curfew when she's gathering more poisonous items, and finds him with Garrick and Bodhi, and they seem to be discussing something important, which we now know was plans of a rebellion. Anyway.
God.
But we don't know about that yet. You can forget I said that. So, you know, they run into each other, and then Violet's all like, look, I gotta decide if I'm sticking around or if I'm running. So, are you gonna kill me or not?
And Zayden's over here. He's saying, you know, honestly, haven't decided yet. Am I affecting your schedule, Violence?
Oh my gosh.
Can I just say
The drama.
the nickname Violence
Love
is
it.
probably my favorite book nickname I've ever come across.
Honestly, it's so wholesome.
I love it so much.
Wholesome?
Yeah, it's so wholesome.
I don't think that's what she was going
No,
for.
no, but it is.
It is, though. I love
It's kind
it.
of like when you give something a nickname, but it has the opposite effect, like tiny, or like calling someone who's short, like Big Papa.
Oh, but she
Not
no,
Wait, what?
but she
Big
is.
Papa.
Kiara's
Tiny
husband
Tim.
is 5'4", by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
So, but he's the
liar.
No, he's actually really calm at that.
That was hilarious.
but Xaden is the only one that has like, by calling her Violence.
Yeah.
Is the only one that has faith in her. Everyone else is basically saying like, you're dead meat here in this squad.
Yeah.
He's the only one that sort of sees the darker side to her.
Because you know what he sees? Her tenacity, her sharpness. Everyone else, except for the friends that she's keeping, are counting her out. You know who I'm referring to? Jack Barlow.
Fucking Dane.
First and foremost, and then Dane. Even her friend or her enemy, either way, they do not expect much out of her. And that's selling her short. Except Xaden's not like that. Xaden's not like the other girls.
For the type B readers out there like me,
Sure.
I just thought it was a play on her name.
Okay, cool.
Violence. Honestly, could have been a typo the first time.
No. There's meaning.
And then she's like, I just need to know my chances here. You know? And then he's like, oh, that's the oddest way I've ever been hit on. And she's like, ew, Xaden, no, I don't mean it like that.
Yep.
Just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
She did. And then they have a heart-to-heart, and he's all like, you know, the right way is not always the best way. And it's not the only way to do things.
And that informs how she's going to go into her gauntlet practice.
I mean, that's probably some of the best advice she's been given, because everybody has always been telling her, especially Dane. Dane is a rule follower. He is the only person that is unwilling to break a rule, I feel like. And so it's just kind of shoved down her throat to follow the rules. And so for Xaden to give her the advice that the right way to do it isn't the only way to do it is fantastic.
Mhm.
So then it's Gauntlet Day, and Dane's all like, "No, Violet, please, you're gonna die, you fucking loser. You can't make it out the mountain. You gotta leave to the Spider Squadron."
You gotta leave it to squadron.
Squadron. And she's like, "You know what? Let me show you how weak I am, bitch." And she makes it up the gauntlet.
She
uses
conquers
a
the
dagger.
gauntlet.
She uses a dagger as a foothold. And then everybody is up at the front and they're all like, "Yay, mate, yay. Violet made it up the gauntlet." Except for the wing leader of Third Wing. who's
Amber
all like,
Mavis.
Amber Mavis. And she's like, that's cheating. You're not allowed to do that. And then Violet's like, "Let me quote the codex that everything you bring about across the parapet is a part of the rider. And this is a dagger that I brought across the parapet, so it's considered a part of me." And Amber's all like, "That was only put in there to prevent people from stealing." And Xaden's like, "Well, she's got you there." And they say she's good.
Mhm.
Xaden stands up for his girl.
Only she's not his girl yet.
Well, she will be. Spoiler.
His violence.
Anyway, and then, they keep mentioning some guy named Liam Mari and how he's like the fastest up the gauntlet. And he beats
Yeah.
everybody's ass at challenges. I mean, who even is?
Just some blonde guy.
And then chapter 12, we have presentation day, which is where everybody marches in front of the dragons and like shows themselves off, and the dragons get to like look at them and decide who they want to bond with.
Yeah, and something that they weren't expecting that day is that they see a feather tail. Which,
Feather tail.
going into this, I don't know what that is.
That wasn't one of the 6 dragons that we spoke of
It's not
earlier.
what we learned.
What the heck is a feather tail, Hope?
Do we want to know what we learn later on? What a feather tail is?
No. We want to be kept in the dark.
Then we don't know what a feather tail is.
No, is that
they're flighty.
They've never bonded with anyone, and
no
that
one.
they're much smaller than any of the other dragons that we've learned about thus far.
Yeah. But the other dragons, they're ginormous. And 2 green ones come up to Violet and are all like sniffing her. And she's like, "Oh, they're smelling teeny scales that Mira made my armor out of. How funny. Ha ha ha." And then, if the dragons aren't pleased, they will
Just
light you on fire.
Yeah, they'll just kill you.
And unfortunately, that did happen to one of their annoying bitchy squad mates, and I don't know what her name was, but squad mate dead.
Death roll 12.
Then we have October 1st, which is threshing.
Which we alluded to this earlier.
Yes, threshing is a big deal. The biggest day, really. It's when all of the first years go and they attempt to bond dragons that have agreed to bond. So they're basically like thrown into this area of forest and things.
They encounter dragons.
And the dragons either bond them or kill them pretty much when they find them.
Yep. It's make or break out there.
It's not easy. We're not passing and playing. We're
all
living
in.
or dying.
It's not just the dragons out there looking to bond that they have to be worried about, because the other cadets are also there's more cadets than there are dragons. So a lot of the cadets are killing the other cadets, so they have a better chance at getting a dragon. So you got to be wary of your classmates.
Yeah, and we may have formed some enemies at this point. And so the threshing's a good kind of smoke shield to have if you want to get rid of said enemy.
Yeah. So we run into Jack Barlow and his posse.
Mm-hmm.
And they make their psychotic intentions known as they're walking through the forest. They're like, "We need to find that golden feather tail and kill it before it bonds to someone and becomes a weakness of the army." And Violet's like, "Guys, That's a little crazy. That's a little crazy. So she rushes to the aid of the little dragon and tells him, fly away, dragon. And she doesn't. And they show up and they're all threatening Violet and are like, oh, great, we can cut out 2 weaknesses at once. We'll just get them both, Violet and this dragon. And then we find out that Shadow Daddy has arrived out of nowhere.
Zayden.
And he wants
okay.
them not to kill Violet or the Feathertail.
But he can't intervene.
No.
He's leadership. He's not allowed to intervene in this important moment.
So he's just sitting on his dragon watching and is just basically like, you shouldn't do that to Jack and them.
Yeah, but they're getting closer. They're getting a little bit more intimidating. And for just, a tiny split second, it's minuscule, but it's important. He makes a move.
He takes a step forward like he's gonna give some action.
That 1 foot.
That 1 foot.
The 1 step.
But he need not, because Violet, she nails Jack in the shoulder with a dagger and he runs away like the little bitch that he is.
Yep.
Runs away.
And Zayden's shouting, behind you, helping her, and she fights him off, but she's about to get her ass kicked when all of a sudden the black dragon arrives. The one that we've told you to forget about? Remember him. Okay?
Yeah, because he's not ready to bond. He had a tragic death of his rider, and he was done. Dunzo.
But he's there, and all of a sudden she hears a voice in her head. Step aside, Silver One. Who was that? Who was that, Hope?
Tiernanog.
The black dragon, is talking to her. Do you know why? Why is he talking to her, Kiara?
Well, he's talking to her because, guess what? He's bonding with her.
He freaking bonded Violet.
As we speak.
He bonded Violet for saving that little yellow Feathertail.
Yep. And he does happen to kill this person.
Tinnin. Kills him.
Yeah, because he was one of the ones threatening our little gold Feathertail friend.
So Tinnin, dead.
Death roll 13.
So Violet gets on his back to fly away, and she can't really keep her seat because he's ginormous and she's
so tiny,
very small. So she keeps falling off, and he catches her. And I love Taryn because of his sassiness. Like, he'll say things like, "You're bleeding. Stop it."
And she can't help it.
Dragons are not known to catch their cadets.
No,
especially like within the first couple days, weeks, whatever it may be. If they fall, I mean, that's on them. They lost their seat. They're dead. They're not strong enough to stay on the dragon. Oh well. But Taryn, first time she falls, he's like, you're mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get you.
Mm-hmm. And he keeps catching her. And he says the iconic quote, "I know exactly who and what you are, Violet Sorrengail." So they land on the flight field. All the dragons are like, they're as shocked as we are. They're like, "Oh my god, Taryn!" And they're like roaring and parting the field so that Taryn can walk across. That's how revered he is and how badass he is.
Everyone knows him.
But little do we know, she walks up, to say, "Hey, this is the dragon I bonded." And they're like, "Okay, what dragon?" And she's like, "Okay, Tiernanog." And everyone's like, "Okay, that's pretty impressive. All right." And then she goes, "And Darna Norum." Both dragons?
She has 2?
The little Feathertail and the big black dragon?
Does bonding with 2 dragons happen?
Never. Until today.
Beautiful.
Everyone's shocked.
Everyone's like, "What? This is not allowed." Jack is all yelling at her while he's receiving medical attention for the dagger that's in his shoulder. And he's all like, "You can't do that. I'm going to kill you." But Violet's all like, "Oh, you're going to kill me? With what arm?"
Yep. She's on a high now. She has 2 dragons.
And then, the dragons all go off to have a meeting because they're like, "Is this allowed? I don't know. We got to discuss it." So they go off to talk about it. And then, she finds out that all of her other squad mates have either lived and bonded or died.
Yep, we have at least one death. So that brings our total up to 14.
Trina.
Yep.
Dead.
Mm-hmm.
But, Rhiannon, she bonds with Fierge, who's a green dagger tail, and Riddick bonds with Atrum, a brown sword tail. Sawyer bonds, finally.
Sawyer.
He
Yay!
gets a red sword tail.
He deserves that.
And then Dane comes up to her and he's all like, oh my gosh, they're going to make you choose. And you should choose the little golden one, okay?
She's
The little
safe.
golden one. She's the safe choice.
Yeah.
You'll never be able to ride her because she's too small, so you won't go into battle. You need to choose that one.
Mm.
And, I agree. Not his brightest moment.
After bonding 2 dragons, he's still trying to keep her down. That she's
Still trying to impose
unworthy.
his decisions on her or what he
Exactly.
thinks is best.
And so then we find out something very important. That Tarn and Sigale are bonded mates, which means they will have to be stationed together forever.
And that they're deeply connected.
Deeply connected. And for those who need a reminder, Hope, who is Sigale?
Sigale is Xaden's dragon.
Xaden's dragon.
So all 4 of them deeply connected.
Deeply connected.
Bonded.
So Violet tells Dane what happened and that she was attacked and Xaden was there watching and Dane's all like, whoa. Wait a minute, what do you mean Xaden was there? Leadership's not allowed to be there. He can't do anything. Oh my gosh, Xaden was there. Xaden orchestrated this whole event and made Tarn bond to you because you could never bond a dragon that big. I'm just kidding. He didn't say that, but he implied it. It was implied, which was so rude. And Xaden shows up and is all like, please tell me what you think I've done.
And Xaden, he continues on. I mean, he's setting the record straight. He's yelling angrily. He's sharing the whole story about how brave Violet was as she took on all these people in order to protect the golden feathertail.
Yeah, and Violet doesn't back down. Violet's like, and I'd do it all again. And Xaden's all like, well, a fuck aware.
Mm-hmm.
That's his iconic line. So they're saying that, Xaden's like, Sigale called for help, Tarn came, and then Tarn decided to bond Violet all on his own. Nobody told him to. Nobody said to.
Dane's huffing and puffing over here.
Yeah, he's all like, would you have bent those rules to save your precious little Violet?
And we know he wouldn't have.
Dane would not have.
No.
No, he wouldn't have. So now Xaden drops the bomb.
I don't blame you, girl.
Xaden drops the big bomb of their lives are now interconnected, meaning because Tarn bonds so strongly to his riders, Tarn chose Violet as his last, meaning when Violet dies, Tarn will die. And when Tarn dies, Sigale will die. And when Sigale dies, Xaden will die.
Because they're all so deeply connected. I say yet again.
So,
such a domino
big
effect.
problem.
Yeah.
And then we find out the dragons are all like, it's fine, everything's fine, and Darna chose her, Tarn chose her, we'll let her keep them.
And humans cannot decide the will of dragons.
Correct.
So if the 2 dragons chose to bond to her, it is not up to the human leadership, aka her mom or General whoever that Melgren. They cannot tell her to choose.
Yes.
Because the dragons chose.
Yes. But out of pocket, Dane, after all of that, decides to kiss Violet on the flight field.
Ew.
And she's all like, yeah, that sucked. That wasn't it.
Not good.
I mean, after imagining it her whole life, thinking that could be something she wanted, just
instant.
Didn't live up to expectations. There was nothing there.
Yeah. So now they get their own private rooms because they're cadets now and they're they have dragons. So they are the Iron Squad, meaning her squad has the most people that have survived. I know, surprising considering
Yeah.
the death toll. Lost a few. So now they have the most surviving members. Imogen and Quinn, who are second years and third years, now sit with them at like breakfast and lunch and stuff because they're cool now and they have
Yep,
dragons.
they've risen up the ranks.
Yes, we
And
find out
everyone is super impressed by Violet.
For sure.
Yes.
They're the once weakling, weakest link is now revered because she has bonded Taryn and a second dragon. So not only the strongest, biggest available dragon, but two of them.
Yeah, they definitely brushed her off in the past, and they're coming to find that it's bit them, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
And we find out Jack Barlow, unfortunately, he bonded an orange scorpion tail named Bade. So he will be sticking around. And Imogen drops the bomb of wanting to train Violet now and says she can trust her. And Taryn says that Imogen can be trusted. And we realize this is all under Xaden's orders. Xaden is telling her to do this. But Violet has bigger issues. She can't keep her seat on Taryn.
Yeah.
She's falling multiple times during flight maneuvers class, and Taryn is having to catch her over and over and over again.
And because Violet refuses to let Taryn use his magic to keep her in her seat because it would drain him quicker, she's just being stubborn.
Yeah.
So they have to find a better way.
So Dane tells Violet, you know, we kissed, we shouldn't have kissed, and it's the rules to not have a relationship with higher cadets.
Yep, it's in the codex.
Boo. So Violet starts picking up library duty. She sees her scribe friend Jasenia and asks for the book of fables that Mira made her leave behind because she's feeling nostalgic. She wants to read it. And Jasenia's all like,
Never heard of her.
Never heard of it.
That doesn't exist. Keep in mind, the Basgiath archives are the biggest. So they should have every version of every book ever. So why don't they have this one? Ponder. So they start manifesting signets. Sawyer is a metallurgist, so he can control metal. And we find out that if you don't manifest a signet, it will consume you and you will die.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know anything about this, so it's seeming a little ominous.
And Violet still can't keep her seat. And Dane throws a bitch fit about it and is all like, you didn't tell me you couldn't keep your seat.
See, this proves everything I ever thought, and you should have been a scribe. And blah, 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 blah.
He's throwing you off the back of him, isn't he? Just kidding. But Violet tells him, you know, fuck off. The reason we will never be anything more than friends isn't because of your rules. It's because you have literally no faith in me. Go off, queen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you could really ask, especially for somebody that you grew up with, that you consider your closest childhood friend. Like, can you not trust me and have a little faith that I can take care of myself?
For real. We find out that someone manifests as an intrinsic, which means they can read people's minds. And a Professor Carr, he comes up and snaps his neck right away because it's like illegal to be an intrinsic, which is kind of sad because
You
can't
don't have
help it.
any choice.
Can't help it. So anyway, that guy, dead.
Death toll?
Death toll, 15.
Jeez. Xaden keeps the kids from spilling some major beans with his shadows because the kids all like, and you don't want everyone to know. And he starts to say it. And Xaden's shadows wrap around his body and like cover his mouth. And then we get to a very tense scene where Violet's sleeping in her bed and all of a sudden people rush into her room and start trying to kill her, which is against the codex, by the way. You can't kill a cadet while they're sleeping. And we find out that she can stop time because she stops time for the first time to kill people that are trying to kill her.
But how does she stop time?
With Andarna.
Andarna?
Yeah.
Darna the small feather tail.
Yep, you heard that
Ugh.
right.
Yes.
But in that time,
Not
when
for
when
long.
when time stops,
Mhm.
Xaden, he barges in the room. He says, "You're all fucking dead."
You're all fucking dead.
Yeah.
And he holds true to that promise. He murders them. There's so many good lines from Xaden in this chapter. He checks her for injuries. He sees all the bruises around her throat, and he says, I should have killed him slower. There's golden banter in this chapter, 232 to 233. Highly recommend you reread. We find out that they're all connected mentally and they can talk to each other.
Which is my favorite trope, essentially. I love when they can mind speak.
Well, let me rephrase. We find out that Xaden can talk to Taryn.
Yes.
And Taryn can talk to Xaden, and Sigale can talk to Violet, and Violet can talk to
I
Sigale.
love secret words.
Which you normally wouldn't be able to communicate with anybody else's dragon.
Mm-mm.
So we find they're all interconnected. We find out the very important information that Andarna is a hatchling. She's basically a baby dragon, and no one can know that because nobody knows that feathertails are baby dragons. And if they do know that, she'll be in danger because people will want to study her and look at her. And so when she's able to stop time, it's not a signet manifested by Violet. It's a gift that feathertails have that she's gifting to Violet. And it takes a very large toll on her. So it is not something we want to do often.
Yeah, she's out for the count for like days, sleeping that off.
Mm-hmm. And Violet tells Xaden at this point that Amber Mavis, the wing leader, is the one who unlocked her door because her signet is being able to unlock things that allowed everyone to enter so that they could kill Violet, but she ran away before people started killing her. So Amber Mavis is the person
responsible for the attack.
So the next day, Xaden moves Liam Mari into their squad as a bodyguard for Violet.
Yeah, and we remember him. I mean, he's good, he's fast, he's blonde.
He's a marked one.
Yeah.
Oh. He's arguably the best first year. He bonded a red dagger tail. And Dane notices that Violet has bruises on her neck and freaks out and is like, why didn't you tell me you were attacked?
Yeah.
And Xaden, like the man he is, calls out Amber Mavis in front of everyone. And Dane is all like, she wouldn't do that. She follows the rules. And so Dane is like, let me see your memories to Violet because he has the gift of being able to see people's memories.
If he touches their face.
If he touches their face.
Yeah.
Which is a classified gift.
Yeah.
Or signet. But so he's all like, let me touch your face and give the memory to me. And Violet's like, absolutely not. You don't believe me? That's crazy. And so Taryn shares Violet memory with literally every dragon. And then the dragons share it with their riders. So everyone sees that she was telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And Taryn burns the bitch. So Amber Mavis, dead.
That's all 16.
Then Liam is following Violet everywhere. She goes with him on library duty, and he can sign, and he talks to Jacinia.
Yeah, he's essentially like her shadow at this point. Yes. And that's all been kind of assigned by Xaden. But also there's not a lot of pushback from Liam. Mm-hmm. He's kind of, I don't know if like honored's the word, but he hops into the role no problem.
But he's willing.
Yeah.
And then we find out a little bit more about Liam. Like, he has a sister named Sloane who's 1 year behind him, and they were separated. And that Liam and Violet bring a scroll to one of the instructors, and they read it as they're bringing it. And they find out that there's been an attack on a city named Somerton, which is a higher altitude city, which is weird for griffins to attack.
Yeah, and this feels like maybe some classified information just because no one else is aware of this. This is something that they kind of ran into on their own, and they're just like, okay, well, what do we do with this information?
Yeah, but they're like, they'll go over it in battle brief because it doesn't say classified or anything on it, and we can talk about it then. But battle brief, they're like, oh, nothing to report on the front lines.
That's really funny.
Suspicious.
Yeah, because what we just read, It's not that.
There is something
Not
going on.
nothing.
So later on, Violet and Rhiannon are sparring, and Xaden and Garrett come in and they start sparring, shirtless. And Liam laughs at them because the girls are gawking at the boys.
I mean,
Yep.
naturally.
Yep.
Naturally.
And then
And
Jack
then-
pops in.
Yeah, and he's all threatening Violet, and Liam steps in front of Violet and between them and is like basically fending for Violet. Then Xaden pops up and stands behind Violet, and then Garrett comes in and stands beside Violet. Basically, she's a posse of hot men protecting her. Swoon.
Yep.
And then Violet notices that Xaden has a bunch of scars on his back for the first time. What are those? Then later in the chapter, Violet wakes up because she's being influenced by Taryn and Sigale
Oh, yeah.
tangoing.
Tangoing.
That is not the correct verb. And she
No.
opens up the door, and Liam's in the hallway, and she's all like, wait a second, what are you doing in the hallway? Like, do you sleep out here? And then she's like, but wait a minute.
You want to sleep in here with
I haven't
me?
looked at Liam like this
Ooh.
before. She's like, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here. Like, something's happening.
Yeah.
So she like runs away from Liam so she doesn't make any bad decisions. And guess who she runs into?
Xaden.
Xaden.
My guy.
And I think it's so funny because then she's telling him basically like, oh, I ran out here because of these feelings I'm having. And Xaden's all like, but where's your bodyguard? Where's Liam? And she goes, oh, he's in bed. And Xaden goes, your bed?
And so what if he was?
No, obviously not.
Nope.
But he was jealous. So Xaden teaches her how to put her shields up, and then they kiss. The kiss.
Were they thinking this kiss was a good idea at the time?
No. They're all like, this is a bad idea, we shouldn't do it. And all of a sudden Xaden's like, fuck it. And he kisses her.
Who cares if it's a bad idea?
Also, I'd like to point out that Violet lightning strikes for the first time during the kiss.
And so during this scene, when you first read it, because she's getting all of the emotions and the feelings from Sigale and Taryn and their little tango,
Yeah.
it's you don't know what to think because you're getting all those emotions and the scenes of the snow and all those feelings, so you don't necessarily catch it the first time you read it.
Exactly. There's a lot going on.
But that lightning strike,
because she has her eyes closed and she describes it as a flash of light and the sound of thunder. But
that's definitely that signet appearing for the first time, being pulled to the surface by none other than Daddy Ryerson.
Yep.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the next chapter, Jack challenges Violet finally, and Liam like runs off to get Xaden because everyone's like, oh my god, Jack's gonna kill her.
Yeah.
But Violet wins because guess what? Jack has a weakness. And what is his weakness, ladies?
Fucking oranges.
He's allergic to oranges.
What kind of... Anyway.
And so she
You're
uses
allergic
that
to
against
oranges.
him. Shoves an orange in his face, I guess.
Then Xaden gives her a tearish blade and they spar and she disarms him and it's a wonderful scene. High tension. Then there's a squad battle in which they have to go and they break into General Sorengale's.
Yeah, because they got to get the most
office.
Useful information, correct?
Yes, because their objective is to bring the instructors something that would, like, if the opposite army had it, if the Griffins had it, it would like bring Navarre down. So they break into General Sorengale's office and they get a map of where all of their
the most up-to-date map with all of the outposts and the stations and all the trading and literally all of the most up-to-date information on Navarre's armies.
And since they won the squad battle, they get to travel to a real outpost, correct?
yes,
They're going,
Montserrat.
yes. And, just so happens that Violet's sister is there, Mira.
Yes. So we get to see a little bit of Mira. They sneak out to go to Rhiannon's family because that's where Rhiannon's family is, so she can see her new nephew. And then as they're leaving to return back, they're talking about it, and they're like, oh, I wonder how long Sigale and Taryn can stay away from each other because they're mated. And all of a sudden, Xaden shows up, and he's like, well, 3 days, I guess.
Yep, they just couldn't stay away from each other, these pesky dragons.
Yeah,
Was it
right, Xaden.
was it the dragons though?
Yeah, right.
Unclear.
And then they have like a little mini battle brief session with Mira that kind of turns into a dick measuring contest with Xaden and Dane. And
This is where something crazy happens.
something crazy happens.
It's unveiled. What was it, Hope?
So the crazy thing is, not only can Xaden and Violet communicate with each other's dragons, but they can communicate with each other. Well, at this point, Xaden can communicate to Violet
In their minds.
in their
yes.
minds.
And she's shocked. Our girl is shocked.
She has no idea. She had no idea.
Mm-mm.
And then Mira pulls Dane and Xaden and Violet out into the hallway and is all like, what the hell is going on? Y'all are acting a fool in there. And, you know, my sister is going to suffer from this. She's going to have to leave her post at Bezgaev and go to wherever you are because Sigale and Taryn can't be away for more than 3 days. And Xaden's all like,
Wrong.
wrong.
I'm the one that's here right now.
Yeah, Violet didn't leave her post. I left mine. But anyway, and the Mira's all like, you are always going to be just his shadow if you let him do that to you. You could be the strongest rider in your generation, but you're never going to be if you always just go chasing after him. And then there's an attack, and the Griffins are attacking
The outpost.
Mm-hmm. So they have to leave. So Xaden gets Violet out of there. We get another kiss scene. It's great.
Yep. And we're
The
scared
kiss.
for a while. Oh, go ahead.
The kiss
Yeah.
was full on just a distraction, though.
100%. It wasn't our best moment, but we had a
No.
lot going on. I think
Listen.
Violet was really worried about Mira. She wanted to stay and help, and she couldn't. You know, we really needed to get her out of there.
Xaden's welcome to distract me anytime.
I mean, I wasn't disagreeing with him or saying I wouldn't appreciate it. I'm just saying that kiss was specifically a kiss for distraction.
What happened? And then, you know, we get some time. We realize, you know, Mira's alive. She survived the attack.
And then it's war games.
Mm-hmm.
So we find out Xaden made her a saddle so she can keep her seat on Taryn.
The amount of time and effort he put into making a saddle for Taryn, and for Taryn to let him make a saddle.
Yeah, he's a grumpy guy.
He is a grumpy old man, and we love him.
So something dramatic happens during war games. So they're fighting, they're chasing and trying to find these eggs. And all of a sudden, Jack Barlow is fighting Liam and stabs him. And Liam falls off his dragon. But Violet catches him and saves him with Andarna because she stops time again.
Even though it weakens Andarna and she is going to be down and out for the count.
Yeah.
She saves Liam.
She had to save Liam. He's
For
like
sure.
her bestie. So she saves Liam. And then Violet's signet manifests.
Yeah.
And what is it?
And she reacts. And she shoots lightning, which brings down a whole ass mountain on Jack Barlow, killing him.
Rumbling and falling and crushing him instantly.
Well deserved.
I agree. It was all worth something.
So finally I get to say, Jack Barlow, dead.
Death roll 16.
Dun dun dun.
All right. And then now Violet, she's like internally freaking out. She's like, oh my gosh, I just killed someone for the very first time.
Not cool, but also kind of cool.
Yeah. And then everyone's like, hell yeah, Violet, that signet is super freaking cool. And she's all like, no, I'm a weapon. I'm a weapon. And everyone else has like, you know, they can do useful things and I'm just a weapon. And Dane's like, no, you never have to use it again if you don't want to. And Xaden's like, get the fuck away from her with that shit. Okay? She is a weapon, and she is going to be a good one, and she is going to win us this war, and she is going to be able to protect her loved ones with this signet.
Yeah, he
It
fully
doesn't.
reframes that for her.
Yes. It does not have to be just used for bad. Like, use it as a weapon for protection.
I mean, leave it to Dane to just think about the worst case scenario and to make her run away from any possible danger when it's clear she kind of craves it. He doesn't know his girl Violet anymore.
So Violet's obviously struggling with this. So Xaden goes a knocking on her door at night, to make sure she's okay because Liam's in the infirmary still. And he shows up and she's just in her dressing gown. Oh,
Which
scandalous.
is like a little sheer nightgown.
Yeah, like a little slip.
A little something, something.
A little something, something. And she, what is she doing in her room? She's throwing daggers, practicing throwing her daggers.
Yeah.
Which she's pretty damn good at already.
I agree.
Right. So she's hitting target after target just in her little slip get up.
Honestly, she's probably just mad or like processing through everything.
Yeah. But Xaden, it really riles him up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, look, just picture it. It's fucking hot. Can you imagine?
Yep.
Ryerson is riled.
Yeah.
And he's ready to go.
And you know what? They are intimate.
They have
Relations.
coitus.
What did you write in the notes? While in the throes of passion.
Well, in the throes of passion. Violet, she's having a little bit of trouble controlling that signet that we just manifested. We don't blame her, but
brand new.
It's happening
Literally a day
in
old.
the throes.
The throes of passion.
They're breaking shit.
Yeah. Furniture.
He's putting her up against a desk, putting her up against a bed, putting her up against the floor.
No, they touch everything but the bed.
Oh, yes.
The bed is the one thing they don't get on.
You're so correct. Yeah. The arm wire, blasted.
And then we have some vulnerable moments too. Where they share and then like Xaden shares something that he hasn't quite told her in the past.
Yeah, he tells her that he's responsible for all 107 marked ones, and that is what the scars are on his back.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what happens. And then they have this moment when, they were just intimate. He's kind of saying, well, you can't fall in love with me. Don't fall in love with me. It's not worth it. I'm not worth it. I don't deserve it.
He's not making it easy to not fall in love with him. He's so easy to fall in love with.
And then now that Violet has manifested her signet, she starts practicing with Professor Carr. And let's be honest, she sucks. She can't aim worth shit.
Yeah, I mean, she's fresh, newbie.
Yeah. But, Carr's all like, what made you manifest this first? What were the emotions you were feeling when you manifested this signet?
Just draw those to the surface.
And Taryn's all like, should I get the wing leader? So
could we just imagine that on the flight field? I mean,
sadly,
it's tough. Yeah.
So anyway, Xaden comes back to Violet's room and is amazed by the damage they were able to create with their passionate intimacy.
Yes.
Their love is cataclysmic.
They almost set the whole of Badsgaith on fire. Not they. Violet did. And throughout all of it, the damage that was happening, Xaden protected both of them with his shadows.
Yes.
But Xaden admits to Violet because she asks him to tell her something real. And so he admits that the night that she found him, Garrick, and Bodhi in the courtyard, they had been at Athbean, which is an outpost which cadets should not be at. And she doesn't know this, but they were on a secret mission.
Yeah, but she's, like I said, she's sharp. She's starting to question things at this point.
So when they went to Montserrat, Mira had given Violet back her dad's book of the fables that she had requested from the archives. And at this point, she finds a cryptic note in it about how it only takes one desperate generation to erase and change history. Which, cryptic. Why would he put that in the Book of Fables.
Yeah, and at this point also, Violet and Xaden they're connecting more. I mean, obviously they just connected very intimately. And they're having some talks about, Xaden saying, you can't necessarily fall in love with me. Violet saying, okay, well, if I fall in love, that's just what's gonna happen, and we'll just kind of see what can happen, but you can't tell me what to do. Like, there's definitely a little bit of a power dynamic here, and it's continuing even up until this point.
Mm-hmm. And the next day, they're sitting at breakfast, eating breakfast, and Violet has figured out how to talk to Xaden through her mind. And so she plays some dirty little tricks on him and starts saying things that quite literally makes him choke on his food.
Literally.
And Liam's just sitting there watching them like, what's going
Yes,
on?
and Violet's definitely taking advantage of this mind speak that's going on, because when they were in the middle of battle brief in front of a bunch of other cadets, she's asking Xaden, is there someone else? You're acting weird, and in her mind she's thinking, Imogen's kind of been in the background a little bit, and maybe he's with her, I'm not quite sure. And she's kind of overwhelmingly thinking about this to the point where Xaden, like, out loud, because he's so thrown off, is like, "Sorengale, what's going on?" And then he tries to play it off, but we all know what's happening.
He plays it off like he was talking about Mira.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I would send Mira Sorengale because she could repair the wards because her signet is wards. But in reality, he was just like telling Violet to stop.
Shut up,
And
Sorengale.
we all know.
Because nobody knows that they have their little mind connection, their little mind speak.
Yes. And no one knows that they have coitus.
That too. Yeah, for sure.
And then there's the reunification ball, where it's literally the celebration of the day that Xaden's dad was murdered for being treasonous.
A traitor.
Traitor. So
it's not a fun remembrance for the marked
Yeah.
ones, that's for sure.
Or really Violet, because that's the day that Brennan died too.
That's true.
So it's kind of a rough day. But Liam is a marked one, and he gets up and he gets dressed and he gets all dressed up and goes to the ball with her. And she finds out that Xaden didn't ask him to go, that Violet just went with, or that that Liam went with Violet just as a friend.
Yeah, just because he wanted to be there for her, not because he felt like he had to.
Yes. But Violet and Liam, they ditched that party because it's lame. And Violet finds Xaden sitting in the middle of the parapet.
That foot wide, long balance beam that a quarter of all of the cadets died on conscription day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just that fun little thing.
He's just hanging out there, and Violet's wearing a dress because of the ball. Little celebration, and against better judgment, everyone that's waiting on the other side of the parapet, just kind of waiting for Xaden, she goes out to him and walks in her dress.
Yep, kind of
in the wind,
meets him where he's at, per se.
in the middle.
Yeah.
They have a little heart to heart, and Xaden's all like mad at her for doing something stupid and reckless, like walking across the parapet in a dress.
Yeah, and he's got to set the record straight. Yeah, and what does he say?
There's only you, Violence. So they agree to be a couple. They agree to stop fighting their feelings and their insane love. And he admits that he has some jealous tendencies as well, because he saw Atos kissing her on the flight field at threshing and nearly lost his shit.
Yeah, and Violet shared, I see you often taking care of all of the other marked ones, like trying to be vigilant, protecting them from afar or from up close. And now I just want to take on the role of taking care of you. And that was so wholesome from our little Violence.
He's never had anybody to take care of him.
No.
And she's offering to fill that role in his life. And it's not something that he ever thought he needed.
Yeah.
Because he's been without it for so long. And now that she's offering it, it's the most amazing thing.
Yeah, Yeah, and they take that off of the parapet, and they are just more connected than ever.
Physically and emotionally.
Ain't that the truth? But
And
it doesn't last long.
nope.
Because you know who interrupts them? Garrick. And he's there to tell them that Navarre is under attack.
Attack?
So they quickly dress, they run out to the flight field. Violet's wearing Xaden's jacket. Rhiannon, she's that girl's girl. She blocks Dane from seeing it so that he doesn't have a bitch fit in the middle of this war that's happening.
Because being in relationships with older, higher ranking officers is not necessarily against Codex, but not really
It's frowned upon.
the best thing.
Yeah.
It's not encouraged, that's for sure.
But, they're all gonna die, so who cares? She gets her fill. But anyway, JK, they're not gonna die. It's just war games.
Joke's on us.
No big deal. Not the end of Navarre.
They just ended our fun time for nothing.
I was gonna say there was honestly no need to ruin the fun times like that.
But Xaden comes over and is like, Violet, you're coming with me. I'm taking Liam and I'm taking Violet. And Dane's like, no, she's safer with me. She can't leave with you. As if. So Xaden takes Violet and Liam from the squad. And he's like, y'all are coming with me. They got sent to Athbean.
Yeah, and Dane's a little frustrated about this. I mean, he can pick up on some vibes. And he says this really ominous goodbye to Violet as she's off to leave. He's just like sad boy vibes and says, I'll miss you, Violet. Like, sir.
What does that mean? For like the next day or two? Yeah. Or like, you'll miss me because I'm meeting Malik?
Because I don't think Violet realized that when she's going on this journey, it's literally Violet and an entire group of marked ones.
Yeah.
It's literally all marked ones and Violet.
Being sent to Athbean, which is the only outpost outside of the wards. So they're not protected from griffins or anything. So they're on their way, riding their dragons, and they stop for water. And Violet is apologizing to Liam, and she's all like, Liam, I'm so sorry that Xaden made you come along to Athbean, which is like the most dangerous part of this war games thing, and it's all because of me. LOL, girl. But then all of a sudden griffins show up. And no one seems surprised by that, except for our girl Violet.
And I mean, me. I was surprised.
Yeah. But the marked ones, Xaden, they weren't surprised. They know the Griffin Riders.
So all of a sudden, Xaden and these griffins start arguing about some kind of shipment. And it becomes clear to Violet that Xaden knows them.
Mm-hmm.
There's something going on here. And they start threatening Violet, and they're like, oh, I wonder how much they would pay to get their general's daughter back. And then Bodhi, Xaden, Violet herself, they're not having it.
Nope.
They're like, no, absolutely not happening. Then Violet starts to notice that she's here with all marked ones. And she's like, what is going on? And she finds out that Tairn and Darna, Xaden, Sigale, they all know what's going on, and no one told her. They all hid it from her.
Yeah, so truly every single person there, except for her, knows some tidbit of what's going on.
And basically what's going on is that Vinin are real.
Mm-hmm. You know, the little fable story that her father, the book that her father gave her of the Venin, the dark wielding magic people, and the wyvern, the created dragons, and just the horror stories from that fable.
Yeah. So Vinin
are real.
Vinin are real. And the griffins have been fighting the Vinin, and Xaden has been supplying them with the daggers to fight the Venom.
Yes.
And the dagger that he gave Violet earlier in the story was actually a dagger used to kill Venom.
Yeah.
And so she's reeling from this. She feels betrayed. She
Her
feels
whole
upset.
her whole world has been flipped upside down. You can't really blame this girl at this moment.
No, and she doesn't have enough information whatsoever.
No.
And she's angry. And all of these people have been hiding this from her. And they show up at Athbean where they're supposed to be for war games, and it's empty. Which doesn't make any sense, because why would the outpost outside of the wards where it's most dangerous be empty?
There should be,
Yeah.
what, like 50 plus people there?
Probably.
It should be well protected.
And we find out that currently there are 4 Venom at Resin. And just to kind of put into perspective, it took 2 of them to take out 2 whole drifts of griffins. And we have 4 of them to deal with. You know, this is something where the whole entire gang knows that they could seemingly be, flying into their death.
Basically, this is a death sentence. So they all agree to stay and fight regardless to protect the citizens of Resin.
Yep, it's unanimous. I mean, they give everyone their own choice.
Yes. Sigale talks to Violet for the first time in her mind and says, "I knew you'd make the right choice," which I thought was a sweet, sweet moment.
Yeah.
And we find out not only are there Venom, there's wyverns. So wyverns are real.
Yep.
Which are like zombie dragons.
Yeah, but Violet has to act pretty quickly. I mean, this is all happening right in front of her eyes, and pretty sure Xaden kind of lets her know, like, stay alive. I promise I'll tell you everything you want to know. If we survive this, if there's a semblance of hope, you can get all the answers that you need. We're like, okay, I mean, sure, I guess.
Yeah.
Could only wish to be so lucky.
And it's very, very dangerous. They're fighting. It's very hard. They discover that the Venom are like soul-sucking demons. Like, they land on the ground and they channel, and it literally kills everything in their radius. And one of the riders and their dragon dies.
And that's our death count 18.
Yes. Yikes. So, and they're fighting like hell, and they discover that if you kill a Venom that created wyvern, the wyvern will fall with them.
So say one Venom created 5 different wyvern. So say there's one person, one dark magic wielder, and 5 of these dragon-like creatures. Instead of going after the wyvern, you go after the dark magic wielder, and all 5 of the wyvern die if you kill that Venom.
Yes. But something tragic happens.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Can we just skip it?
They are fighting, and our friend Liam,
No, I don't want to hear it.
He tries to save Violet and Taryn from a wyvern attack, and as a result, his dragon Day takes some massive injuries,
Lethal injuries,
and dies. And
thus,
our very first quote from the beginning: "A rider without their dragon is dead." And so if their dragon dies, they die. And so
it's proven in this chapter.
Liam, he dies.
And let me tell you, when I first read this, I was gutted.
It was a sobbing mess. Maybe at some point in the future, I can share the video that I sent to y'all with everyone. But I know I was a sobbing mess.
I mean, I almost stopped reading.
Yeah.
It was bad.
But iconically, he said, "It's been my honor." Oh, why would you do that?
Has been my honor.
But we can't slow down.
We
The
have
Venom
to
are
keep
coming.
fighting.
Violet is desperate at this point to just make sure Xaden survives. and a villain jumps on the back of Taryn and is fighting with Violet and stabs her with a poisonous blade. But it's not a lethal stab. So Violet continues fighting, and she discovers that if she can have Andarna stop time again, she can drag her lightning, because she can't aim still, and hit the venom and get rid of all the wyvern that are coming. So
At least the ones that specific venom created.
yes. So that's what they do. Andarna stops time. Violet strikes. The venom go. The wyvern go. But because of the poisonous the blade that Violet was stabbed with, she falls off the back of Taryn. And everyone thinks she's gonna die.
It's a tragic few seconds.
Well, I mean, she's falling
For sure.
in the middle of the sky, and she's just woo.
And Andarna comes out of nowhere and catches her, even though she's too small and she can't hold the weight of a rider.
And she just spent all of her energy on stopping time.
It's dramatic. Xaden's roaring.
Yeah.
He's screaming. He's
everything-
losing it.
Dang.
And he takes her somewhere to be healed. She's in and out because of the poison. And then we get the last chapter in Xaden's point of view.
Oof. Yeah.
I've been waiting the whole book for Xaden's point of view, by the way. The whole book.
And we get it in the last chapter.
He's distraught, to say the least.
Well,
Violet wakes up, thank goodness. And she finds out that Xaden brought her to Erasia.
what?
You mean the
Where?
ruined city?
The ruined city where Xaden is from and where the rebellion was.
You mean the city that's burned and no longer a city?
The exact
Yes.
one.
The destroyed one?
That's right.
How are there people there?
Oh, because it's not destroyed.
Is it rebuilt?
It's rebuilt.
Oh my gosh.
The home of the rebellion.
The home of the rebellion is still there. Oh, and we find out Andarna, she's alive. She's okay, but she isn't really herself. She grew.
Yeah.
Andarna isn't baby anymore.
She's no longer baby.
She's no baby.
Oh, and one more thing. Kiara, what else?
The biggest plot twist of the century. Guess who Violet wakes and sees? Finds out that she was mended by, you guessed it, Brennan, her dead brother of 6 years.
Death toll? 16 again.
Yeah, we're knocked down a peg.
-1. -1. He's alive.
Shocked. Shook. Stressed.
Shooketh. When I read this, and I found out that this was the end of the book, to tell you the shock and unfathomable, just it couldn't be it. It couldn't be the end.
All those
but
feelings.
It was.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you. I called Alyssa and I called her a few choice names.
How dare you make us read this book?
I had to.
I'm offended.
I felt very justified in that. You know, she wasn't that offended. She was laughing the whole time.
Of course she was.
But I mean, essentially, that's where we were left off, on a cliffhanger, and that's where we're leaving you. That's all we got.
That's it. So,
And so, we would like to, thank you for joining us while we summarize Fourth Wing in, such a wiggly state, kind of influenced by alcohol. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
make sure you follow us on all of our socials at Totally Booked Readers so you can stay up to date on our most recent episodes and releases. And we hope you take some time out of your Totally Booked schedule to join us next Tuesday for our Iron Flame Book Club.
Bye.
Okay, bye.